Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this Netflix review. The fact that you're willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really means the world to me. I really do appreciate it. For those of you that are unaware, I review everything that has just been released on Netflix. So if you're ever in the mood to find out if something is good or bad, come to my channel and I'll let you know if you are wasting your time or not. So guys, subscribe to my channel, get engaged, because I want to make sure that I am your go-to Netflix guy. So we're going to be talking about Worn Stories, and this is a docuseries that is unlike anything I have ever watched before. A brief breakdown of the story, and I can summarize this whole thing in one sentence. A bunch of strangers talking about their clothes. That's ultimately what this series is. If that sounds like a concept you just cannot get behind or enjoy, this is definitely not the series or the docuseries for you. Ultimately, this is just a bunch of arbitrary people from around the world that discuss stories linked to specific items in clothing. You get some that are quite emotional, others that are completely random, some that really just waste your time, and then some that are a little bit more heartfelt. But that's the whole series. And if you're not in the mood to listen to a bunch of strangers, then yeah. You're definitely in the wrong place. I will say this, it's a very interesting, unique concept, but I can guarantee you not everyone's going to enjoy it. And I can tell you right now, the thing most people are going to have a problem with is the very first episode. I can guarantee you the pilot episode for this series was made for shock value alone. It's actually about nudists, and they really make sure that you know they're nudists because there is full frontal nudity majority of the episode. You're going to see every little bit of the human body. So if you're not prepared for that, skip right over the first episode. And yes, as I said, that's definitely just so that they could make some headlines on some different news articles online to get as many people invested in this series as possible. Because episode 1 is actually, while it has the same themes and the same storytelling narrative as the rest of the episodes, its subject matter is so far divided from the rest of the series. So they really went out of their way to include this for that shock value element. So ultimately, we're going to be hearing stories. Are these stories worth your time? That's the question I asked myself while I was on episode 3 of this series. Are the stories I'm hearing worth me actually watching the rest of the series? Now, I've got a rule. Watch all of the episodes of a series before I make a review on it. That's just something I have to do, so I make sure I'm giving you guys the best content. But I'm going to be honest, majority of the stories that are told in these episodes aren't going to appeal to everyone. But is it interesting enough for me to have watched this whole episode that's 30 minutes long? Is it worth me watching this entire episode for your 5 to 10 minute segment? They usually have 3 or 4 different stories within a single episode with a few other talking heads where they just sit down for about 20 to 30 seconds talking about a very brief item of clothing. So you've got all of these different, complete and utter strangers talking about clothing. Honestly, there was this one story on episode 1 or 2 where this girl just loses her jacket. And I was just sitting there going, doesn't everybody lose an item of clothing every now and again? And the story wasn't about the fact that she had lost her jacket. It was about the fact that she ended up bonding with her sister. And I guess that's actually the point of the series. It's not about the items of clothing. It's about the individuals telling their stories. Complete and utter strangers, people that we don't know, just faceless, nameless people from around the world telling their personal stories. It's a way for people that seem almost insignificant in the grander scheme of things to show my value comes from this. And then they explain the value and they explain their reasoning behind it. And it's to give people a spotlight to really talk about themselves and let themselves be heard. At the end of the day, I don't know if it's necessarily entertaining enough to warrant an entire series with this many episodes. Probably my favorite part of the entire series though, is every item of clothing is given a backstory. And the guy that's been telling the story, when they tell their story, when they give the backstory, there's a different style of animation for every backstory. And it's really cool because that's more of an experimental vibe where every story has a different take or a different visual style. And some of them were just beautifully animated and they looked gorgeous. There's this one about ties, and it's a bunch of just little, all of the figures and all of the characters you see are all made out of wool. And it's just beautiful to watch and beautiful to see, and it's animated amazingly. But then you get other stories where it's almost an eyesore. The animation is literally almost ugly. And so I'm left thinking, well, the one element I really liked about this series is very, very 50-50. And half the time I don't even enjoy it. So actually, this is what I'm going to do. This is how you're going to figure out if you want to watch this series or not. Are you at all curious about the story behind when my fiance and I bought this shirt? Are you at all curious about my misadventures when I bought this jacket? If your answer was yes, then watch this series. If your answer was a resounding no, then don't watch this series. Because that's all it is. It's people talking about clothes. But guys, thank you so much. You guys are the best. You're awesome. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. It will really help me out. I can't wait to see you guys in another review.